This is 100% real, and my girlfriend was with me at the time for credibility, that I wasn't tripping. I live in Tennessee. I was 100% sober. I slept fine the night before. Nothing was interfering with me to make this up in my head. I don't have any medical conditions other than ADHD. This story happened, I would say, around 12 or 1 a.m. or so, about 7 months ago. So I own a small shed next to my house. I have a TV in there, so some nights I'll go out into the shed and hang out by myself and chill watching some movies. My girlfriend was over at the time, so we decided to go watch a new movie that came out around that time. I have this really cool TV set up in there, so it's sometimes better watching it in there than in my house. I always leave out the back door when I leave to go to the shed, and most of the time, I usually leave it open until I come back in. I live in a less popular and non-sketchy neighbourhood, so there's usually no problems with people being around to break in or anything. At the time, I owned a dog that was in the final stages of being deaf and blind. She was a small Yorkie cross. She could barely see anything, if anything at all. Can you see where this is going? Alright, so I go back into my house after the movie with my girlfriend, and I go to the bathroom, but I notice that I don't hear my dog walking around doing her nightly blind walks in the house. Usually, she'll snoop around the house for no reason, but I think it was because she couldn't see much or was just getting dementia. So I look absolutely everywhere in the house. She's nowhere to be seen. My girlfriend and I are both dumbfounded. We start to think that maybe somehow she managed to leave through the back door. You have to go from the hallway to my room, to a back room, to the back door, to the back porch that's raised about 4 to 5 feet off the ground. So we decide we'll look around outside, just in case she somehow managed to get lost and come out the back porch, and then fell off the back porch. Because it's a pretty big drop, she was almost completely blind. We figured we'd have a look and, well, we looked for a bit and still nothing. Absolutely no sign of her anywhere. No blood from a fall. We didn't hear her squeal when we were in the shed. Nothing. There's literally no sign that she's even gotten out. But we searched absolutely everywhere. Now there's a small patch of woods behind my house, and I thought if she'd escaped, surely she couldn't be too far away. So we started out to the small wooded area to look for her. I have my phone flashlight on, and my girlfriend is walking with me. When all of a sudden, I start to hear a few leaves crunching, and I thought that I'd found my dog. Relieved, I put my flashlight over where I heard the leaves crunching, and I see a hooded figure. They're probably about 15 to 20 foot away, maybe even more, and they're just slowly walking, pretty much at a complete stop when I put the flashlight on them. I end up taking the flashlight off of them, and I tell my girlfriend, there's someone snooping around out there. We should probably go back in. Next thing you know, I hear the leaves crunching again, and I turn the flashlight towards where the figure was. And I couldn't believe my eyes. All of a sudden, it switches to a tall grey figure running super fast to the left of the woods. This thing is absolutely faster than anything I've ever seen. As soon as I'd seen it do it, my whole body was just hit with a big wave of cold chills. I can't even explain the feeling. It felt as if the chills went from the top of my head down to my toes. I absolutely book it, almost even leaving my girlfriend behind. But after we got back into the house, I asked her if she'd seen what I'd just seen. She said she hadn't, but she'd definitely heard the crunching of the leaves, like something was running fast, really fast. I absolutely could not believe my eyes. Till this day, I still don't know what the heck it was. It was literally like someone with a hoodie had over their face. But then they turned into this skinny grey figure and ran faster than anything I'd ever seen. I never found my dog. I never found any proof she'd even gotten out. We've checked every crevice of the house and even posted on Facebook with her being missing in the hopes that someone would find her. Nobody ever did. And now she's just a memory. But it still makes me think to this day if what I saw is somehow connected to the disappearance of my dog. I overthink it, thinking maybe it got into the house when the door was open and it took her. I'll never forget this, and it was my first ever encounter with something crazy like this. I guess it actually feels good to share this story. Maybe others can relate or have experiences similar to mine. But ever since then, I haven't encountered anything out of the ordinary. I still feel paranoid when going into my shed, or when I can see the woods in the corner of my eyes. The day after the incident, we even explored the small wooded area to see if any proof of the creature being there, or if my dog was there. But there was nothing. I wish I knew what happened to my poor dog, but at least I know she's no longer suffering. Not exactly sure how to start this, so I'll just jump right into it. I live in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, specifically in the valley, without being too specific. And I do live in town though, not a long walk from the woods. It was late August, and I had the house to myself for the week, so perhaps an overactive imagination contributed. But either way, I think about the whole experience often. I'd done my chores for the evening and was about to shower when I had a feeling that I hadn't locked the door. So I ran out to check, and as I was doing so, caught a look at something outside my window. It looked as if a human was crouched down outside my window, except it was all white with no recognisable features. This was around 11 at night. The majority of the light was from inside my house. There's a street light outside my house, but it would have mostly been blocked by the small tree in the yard. For it to appear crouched down outside my house, it would have to have been quite tall, as I live in a manufactured home, and so the main windows are probably at least 3 to 4 feet off the ground. I only saw a head and shoulders, and didn't notice any movement, but it was definitely out of place. It spooked me a little, so I locked the door and went back to have a shower. As I was about to jump into the shower, I heard a couple of thumps on the roof, and then after a short pause, a quick sound at the door. Now there are 2 doors to my bathroom, one into the hallway and one in the laundry room where the back door is located. So this was very close. As someone who's seen a scary movie or two, I know you die in the shower. So I put my clothes back on, checked all the windows and my doors to make sure they were locked, brought my cats into my room, closed the door, and laid down with my toes under the covers. I looked the next day when I left, and there was nothing in that spot that I could have seen. The only thing even close was a small statue we have, but it's nowhere near the right size to have been seen from the angle I was at, even if it was in the right spot. I'm probably crazy, but I've had a few other paranormal experiences in my life, and it's enough to at least keep me curious. It was September in central Idaho. Autumn had come to the mountains, and with it bow hunters looking for mountain goats. My cousin, let's call him Vern. He's an avid hunter. He's been all over North America, hunting various game, bears in Alaska, wild hogs in Texas, and bighorn sheep in Wyoming. But his favourite area was the Lemhi mountain range in central Idaho. Our extended family has been hunting in these mountains for generations. We know every river bottom and mountain peak, like many people know their own neighbourhoods. Mountain goats are a fascinating animal to hunt. They live well above the tree line in rocky environments. They are sure-footed and can climb near vertical slopes. Hunting these animals requires one to venture into these dangerous areas. You have to be mindful as you pursue an animal like that. One wrong step on a rocky slope or one loose rock could mean you're not going home ever again. Vern was an expert mountain hunter. It's something he was born to do. Vern decided to hunt in the Hayden River area of the Lemhis. It's a familiar spot to most locals, and the area is home to plenty of mountain goats. The first mile of Vern's hike was uneventful as he climbed up the canyon. The air was crisp, and his breath formed in great plumes as he progressed. The sun was just peeking over the mountains when Vern came to a small deer trail. He decided it might be a nice shortcut from his usual route and took it. A few hundred feet up the trail, he saw something odd pop out from behind a tree. It was a man. He was dressed in a light denim coat and jeans, was carrying a small backpack. My cousin stopped for a second to get his bearings, unsure of where this guy came from. The man waved at him with both arms. One of them was holding an older style hunting bow. Acknowledging him, Vern waved back. Although the man looked to be physically fine, it was clear he was emotionally distressed. He yelled out something my cousin couldn't quite hear and waved his arm, indicating my cousin should follow him. He didn't get any bad vibes from this man and could tell he was genuinely in need of some help. He began to make his way up the canyon, following this mystery man. Vern could never gain any ground on this guy. He was always just far enough away that he couldn't talk to him. Periodically, the man would stop, turn towards him to make sure Vern was still following. Every time he looked back, Vern could see the worry in his face. My cousin did his best to remain calm and keep a smile on his face, unsure who or what he was being led to. It was peculiar, Vern thought as he hiked. He hadn't seen any other vehicles on his drive up to the trailhead. Perhaps he came in from over another ridge. What could he possibly be leading him to? He figured one of his hunting party had been hurt and needed help. Of course, he wouldn't have to speculate if the man would just stop and talk to him for 5 minutes. Vern lost sight of the guy just past a turn on the trail. The trail opened up into an incredibly steep, rocky talus slope. He looked in every direction and couldn't locate the man. When he heard a whistle, looking up, he saw the guy about 500 feet up the rocky slope waving at him. There was no possible way he could have gotten up that far in just that short time Vern lost sight of him. He still didn't feel any fear or weariness about this weird situation. The man was waving more frantically now, practically begging Vern to follow him up the slope. With a sigh and a grunt, he started up the rocks. It was slow going. Every other step caused a mini rock slide and would cause him to continually lose his footing, huffing and puffing on the cool, thin air. My cousin eventually made it to a small landing. It had taken him almost 45 minutes to get to that spot where he saw the man from below. There was no earthly way anyone could have done that scramble uphill any faster. Totally exhausted and out of breath, Vern sat down on the stone landing. He looked around and he couldn't see the man anywhere. As he scanned his surroundings, he saw something odd poking out of a boulder about 20 feet away from him. Walking over to it, he found a weathered boot. 2 boots, actually. Inside those boots, and under the boulder as well, were bones. Vern looked around once again for the man, but he never saw him again. Instead of feeling eerie or unnerving, Vern felt a sense of relief wash over him. These emotions weren't his own. What he felt seemed to come from all around him. He marked the spot with his GPS and decided to make his way down and call the authorities. The Lemhi County Sheriff's Office responded, and he led them up the canyon to the body. It took 4 grown men to push the boulder out of the way, and when they did, they found the skeletonized remains of a man. On the body, they found hunting equipment and some personal effects. From a credit card in the wallet, they were able to identify the man. He was a bow hunter that had gone missing almost exactly 53 years beforehand. Vern never wanted to be identified to the public or the missing hunter's family. He didn't want recognition for something like that. To him, it was just one of those bizarre mountain stories. He was happy that the family got closure, even if it was half a century later. The only thing that bothered him was the man leading him up the canyon, and with his strange and sudden disappearance. He had mentioned the waving man to the sheriff, but was brushed off. When news reports came out announcing the discovery, several photos of the man were published. Vern was absolutely shocked when he saw them. In the photos was the man he had seen leading him up the mountain to the body. It finally made sense to him. The man's distressful look, the constant checking if Vern was following him, the sense of relief he felt when the body was discovered. That man was desperate to get home, and through Vern, he was finally able to be reunited with his family.